Just last month, these were some of the headlines staring at Democrats almost daily. It was ugly. Doomsday midterm election scenario takes shape for Democrats. Why the midterms look so bleak for Democrats, and can Democrats avoid a midterm wipeout? Well, what a difference a month makes, and perhaps more importantly, a Supreme Court ruling makes. Here are some more recent headlines by comparison. It's official, the Democrats are performing better after the abortion ruling. Democrats have embraced abortion as an election-defining issue, and abortion becoming more important voting issue driven by Democrats. Quite a difference in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. Democrats have embraced the issue of abortion rights. With it, their fortunes have seemingly turned. After the Dobbs ruling, party leaders had hoped abortion could become a rallying issue for their discouraged party faithful. Republicans had been slugging them with issues such as crime, inflation, and the Afghanistan withdrawal for months. Joe Biden's approval rating even fell to below Donald Trump's. Well, now it appears abortion is galvanizing Democrats and even many moderates. And the question is, can the issue carry them through the midterms? They really must think so. Here they were on primary night this week.
A woman's right to choose on the ballot.
Reproductive freedoms, access to abortion rights.
To expand abortion access throughout the country.
We're going to restore abortion access across our entire nation.
According to the Pew Research Center, in March, just 43% of Americans said abortion was a very important issue. Fast forward to August, after the overturning of Roe, and that number jumps to 56%. And check this out. The number of Democrats calling it very important has risen from just 46% back in the spring to 71% now. The power of the issue became even clearer this week in a special House election in New York. Some were looking to it as a prelude to the November elections. Less than a month ago, polls showed the Republican Mark Molinaro beating Democrat Pat Ryan by 10 points. You probably know where this is going at this point. Ryan made nationwide abortion access his main issue in the final months of campaigning, and he rode it all the way to the win. Democrats are hoping it is a model for November 8th. But how do we know Pat Ryan is not a one-off, just a coincidence? It's possible everyone is making too big of a deal about this. Here's how. In various special elections across the country following the Supreme Court ruling, Democrats who have focused their campaigns on abortion have routinely outperformed President Biden in 2020, suggesting the issue is pushing votes to Democrats. In Nebraska, Democrat Patty Pansing Brooks outpaced Joe Biden in her district by 6.2 percentage points. Her election was just days after Dobbs. In Minnesota, Jeff Ettinger improved on Joe Biden's performance by 2.9 percentage points in his victory. And Pat Ryan, following that trend, bettered Biden by 1.3 percentage points in a bellwether district. And there is even further evidence the issue could be gaining yet even more momentum. According to the New York Times, 70% of new voters in Kansas in the week after the Supreme Court ruling were women. Voters in that state blocked an effort to strip abortion protections earlier this month. Turnout spiked in Pennsylvania. Women are 62% of new voter registrations. On average across the country, the number is 55%. Women are motivated in this election cycle. It's becoming very clear. As Time magazine put it, just maybe Republicans got their long-sought policy goal of overturning Roe, but we'll find it comes with long-term political costs. A New York political consultant also recently joked, "I don't think there's enough Pepto-Bismol in all of CVS in the nation to calm Republican nerves right now." Okay, NewsNation's political editor Chris Stirewalt joins us to talk about all this. His new book is Broken News: Why the Media Rage Machine Divides America and How to Fight Back. All right, Chris, we went through all of that. Are Republicans really that nervous tonight?
Well, I think Democrats are succumbing to the same temptation that Republicans did earlier in this cycle, which is overconfidence. This is still a bad year for Democrats. It is less bad now than it was before, and it's less bad because of the response on the Dobbs case. Certainly the Kansas referendum was the clearest evidence that we could want that this moves independent voters, basically a third of the voters who turned out in the Kansas primary were not registered in either party or did not participate in either party's primary, but came just to vote on that issue, which overwhelmingly carried. So we know that's a mover. Other factors are at play here, and the other factors include Donald Trump's centrality in the national news. If this election is a referendum on Joe Biden, the Democratic losses will be more. If this election is a referendum on Donald Trump, the Democratic losses will be less. So I would have told you in May or June that the Republicans were on their way to losing something like 30 or 32 seats in the House, and that they were probably going to lose the Senate by a couple seats just because that's the way the wind is blowing. Today, I would tell you Republicans are on track to gain maybe 15 seats. That's more than enough to take the House back. And the Senate is still a jump ball. We don't know how it's going to be. So Democrats have to be careful here not to be overconfident. I think the action that President Biden took with the student loan forgiveness was reckless politically, will cause lots of backlash, and will shift the narrative against Democrats in ways that will undercut the trend that you just described.
Interesting. So also with inflation, crime, you mentioned now this issue with the student loan debt. A lot of people not happy about that. How does abortion fit in? I mean, how powerful is the abortion issue compared to some of these other things, do you think?
So abortion is an issue that is, generally speaking, not at the top of the list, the Pew statistics you cited and others, because we had a longstanding consensus. That consensus is over, and we're going to have to do the work that we didn't do as a country 50 years ago to figure this stuff out, and states are going to move in different directions. You saw in Kansas, and we've seen in other states, other states will have abortion language on the ballot, and in those states it could be particularly potent. I would say that there's a parallel here to what we saw with gay marriage at the turn of the century in 2004, particularly. This can move values voters. In this case, it's going to move values voters from the left, who might not come out to support a Democratic candidate that they were lukewarm about, but in this case it'll do it. For candidates like Tim Ryan in Ohio, it's very useful in keeping the Democratic base together. They may not be keen on him as a moderate, but they're going to want a Democratic Senate. So it has all those salubrious factors. A lot of it, though, will depend on, for Republicans, will depend on if they can come up with a way to talk about this that is effective. The big problem that Republicans are going to have is that extreme voices inside the Republican Party, Democrats are going to nutpick those out. They're going to pull out those, and they're going to say, this is what all Republicans think about this stuff. And it's hard because the electoral bases in both parties' primary electorate are really radical and out of the mainstream on this. What most Americans favor is legal abortion with lots of restrictions, right?
Yeah.
So the consensus position in America is that Americans favor elective abortion, but in the first trimester. Later abortion, Americans are not in favor of. So finding a way to talk about this issue without either angering the base in your own party or sounding like a creepy weirdo to the general electorate is really tough.
Right. I guess that explains why when you turn on Fox News these days, you really don't see them talking about abortion very much. It's difficult to talk about. What do you, I mean, you kind of alluded to this, but what do you think Republicans should be focusing on right now? I mean, how do they take the attention away from abortion? What's the big issue? I mean, we've seen them hitting crime. Obviously, the last 24 hours, it's all been about the student loans. But, what's next?
Yeah, the student loan issue, the Republicans are going to make hay out of this. This is a great issue for them with suburban voters, with people who are concerned about inflation, who are concerned about deficit spending, and concerned about just that things don't seem to be run very well. This is, I think, a serious strategic error to do this at this time for Biden. But what Republicans really need to do is get Donald Trump in a basement somewhere and make him stop talking for a while. Donald Trump is a huge liability for Republicans in this cycle, not just in the fact that if you look at the 6 main races where the key Senate contests in the country, all of the nominees are MAGA nominees. And if Democrats can make this election about, I have an old joke, which is there's only one thing that Donald Trump, the Democratic Party, and the mainstream press agree on, which is that Donald Trump should be the focus of every political story. And it's just hard for Republicans because midterm elections are supposed to be about the party in power. They're supposed to be a referendum on the sitting president and how he did in his first 2 years. And Trump is kind of tangling that up for Republicans.
Well, I mean, you had the Mar-a-Lago raid. It's hard to top. It took over the news cycle, and then we had, it just everything revolved around that. The timing was interesting. Chris Stirewalt, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.